Hey you, welcome to Exposing Rachel and Benjor. So I actually just got PDO threads and they really hurt. I did them on my eyes and in my cheeks, and I'm still every time I make an expression I'm in pain. So if you see me making any weird pained faces, it's because I'm being stabbed by a million barbs in my eyes.
What are PDO threads?
PDO threads, so if you see everyone talking about the Bella Hadid ponytail lift, they're a more natural way to do it. It's collagen threads, and they go in your skin, and then they pull the skin up, kind of like a facelift, but on a very minimal level with collagen producing stimulants. So it didn't make a huge difference, I think, but I am excited to see how that goes. But especially about talking about today, diving just deeper into plastic surgery and things that we really wish that we knew before doing all the procedures that we did.
Yeah, we've done a lot of stuff. So I got jaw and chin implants, I got nose jobs, I got lip fillers now with her, which I was very scared about because I thought I was going to look like a woman. And so that was one of the things that I was very scared of trying out, and I really like it. She's done a lot of stuff as well. I have another video talking about all the procedures, how much they were and all of that, so you can watch that one later on as well. But there are 10 things that we wish we knew before starting this journey of doing tons of plastic surgery, and we're going to discuss them right now. So number one is that you will not look the way you face tuned it. You're playing around, trying to see how you're going to look. You're not going to look like that.
Yeah, I used to be obsessed with that. So when Facetune first came out, I don't know, this was maybe 7-8 years ago, I was enthralled by it because I'm oh my gosh, I can make my lips bigger and my face smaller and all these things. But the technology the technology of being able to make such tiny little corrections, that's not what doctors are able to do. What they can do with a scalpel and some stitches is not the same as being able to digitally alter different parts of your face. So I think for me, a huge part when I was getting ready for plastic surgery is I was face tuning exactly what I wanted on myself. And I was majorly let down because it didn't look the same.
I'd say that most good doctors will not even show you a before and after.
Yeah.
Because we think Photoshop is so easy, they could just do it and show me what it's gonna look like. But they won't do it so that you manage your expectations better and you're not comparing yourself to a photoshopped version of yourself. And so that's not really something you're gonna see happening very often.
Yeah, which I think especially because when you do FaceTime, or not FaceTime, when you do Facetune, you're really, because you're manipulating it, in real life, when you change one thing about yourself, it's different than just a photo. Your facial proportions will look different and can look distorted.
Second thing is that face proportions are something that you gotta take into consideration. And so I wanted to have a very masculine face. Surprise, right? I'm wearing very girly things now. And this is actually because I just released a music video called Gold. It's my very first music video. I talk about accepting your sexuality. We're both bisexual. And so head to benjor.com/music to watch that. It's super cringe because it's my first time doing a music video. I produced it, I wrote it, and I talk in the videos. I don't sing, but I talk in the song. So it's a beautiful message. Go ahead and watch it so you get why the military stuff with the gay stuff mixed. But when I was trying to look more masculine with these implants, I wanted to have a very strong jaw and very strong chin. What I didn't realize is that by making my lower face bigger, my lips were gonna shrink a little. And so I didn't take into consideration that your face proportions change and things that you're not expecting may look a little different. So consequently, my nose probably looks a little smaller as well. But the lips, for me, they really shrunk because my chin used to go from this, my chin went from this to this. And now because the chin is a lot larger, my lips stay the same, and so they look way smaller, which is also why I ended up getting lip fillers afterwards. So you just gotta remember that once you change one thing, everything else may look a little different.
Yeah, and that can be for bad or for good, right? I think for me, when I got lip filler, I loved it because before I got surgery on my chin, I felt like it made my chin, I felt like it looked very masculine. It definitely made it appear smaller because my lips are going bigger. So for good or for bad, right, I think it's important to take into consideration whatever you're going to be doing. How is this actually going to affect the rest of my face and not just this one specific body part? Which kind of brings us into, people will always say that, yeah, this is number 3. People will always say that you looked better before surgery. Even if the thing that you want to change is like something that's totally bothered you, it's super obvious, it throws off the natural beauty that you have. Let's say, well, I don't want to give an example because you'll come for me for making fun of a specific, but let's just say like you have no lips, you know, like you literally have no lips, and then you get lip filler and you have like these beautiful juicy lips. People always be like, oh my gosh, you look so much better when you were natural, which is a lie, because you know that you look better now. But I think there's such a negative connotation with plastic surgery. Just get ready that people will always say, as soon as they find out you've had plastic surgery or filler or Botox or whatever, they're always going to tell you like, you should have stayed natural. Natural is best, and natural is absolutely not best all of the time. If you're born lucky, good for you. But
And I really believe that like if you like the natural look, good for you. I think there's a lot of, it's very cool to own your natural beauty, but I also think it's really cool to own your fake beauty, right? We're very open about being fake because we like it and we're very glad that we did those procedures. But if you like the natural look, that's awesome. If you can like have no lips and a huge nose and you're very confident in that, we think it's awesome.
And there's
I
people
do at
who
least.
are-
Like I think like it's really cool that you are that way. But we just want to make sure that people are very confident in whatever choice they make, whether it's to be fake or to be natural.
And I think in terms of uniqueness, right, there's a lot of models that have, you know, really unique, interesting facial features. And if they were to get like a nose job, or if they like looked like traditional beauty standards, then they wouldn't be models, right? Getting paid millions of dollars to be able to do what they do. So I think it's all just about like, do you want to look like a basic bitch? I personally do. Or do you want to look unique and different with features that are very distinctly yours? Just know that whatever you do, people will talk shit about it, so you really just can't care.
Yeah, you just gotta do you, because either way, you know, people will talk crap. So that takes us to the next point.
Recovery is going to be more than you think it is, because when you're going into a plastic surgeon's office, I think they don't want you to know how intense of a procedure that it can be, right? If you're like, oh, you're going to be out for a month, everyone would be like, well, I'm not going to do that.
Gotta
But-
work, right? Gotta pay the bills. How am I not gonna work for a month?
Yeah, and I think for me, whenever they give you the estimated recovery time, I would always tack an extra week or 2 onto that. Because if you're someone like Benjor, when we had our surgeries at the same time, he healed so fast. He's also not a wuss.
Yeah.
So even if he was in pain, he wasn't really showing it. But
So we also, I guess, it does depend on the person, right? Because
yeah.
she was like throwing up, so she actually got very sick with the meds when we were recovering from our jaw surgeries. And I was already talking and working, and like I wasn't showing myself on camera, right? Because I looked really creepy. But I could already work and do fine, whereas she was feeling more sick. And she's also a little more delicate, right? Like, so she's always a little more sick than I am. So yeah, that is something to consider.
Yeah, like you really just have to make sure that you really don't have any kind of engagements going on, you know, at least for a good month. Like, I'm not saying that you can't return back to normal activities after like a week or 2, but just know, like, I just wouldn't do any kind of big procedure when you're going to need to be like on super high energy. Because going to work is one thing. Having, let's say, like a bachelor party or something, like, if you have to be high energy and feeling good when you want to throw up, like, just give yourself more time than you need to fully be back to 100% again.
Now, plastic surgery is great, but it is permanent. It takes a lot of money and time. And some other things that we can do are quicker, easier, cheaper. So tell us about your hair. What are you wearing right now?
Well, obviously, I'm wearing my rosette hair, which is so much fun because do you know how long it took me to do my hat and my hair? 30 seconds. It took me 30 seconds to do this. And so, again, if you're looking for a change that is not permanent, but something that you can do really fun and really quickly when you are in a rush, or just because you want to feel like a Bratz doll that day, then go to rosette.co, choose your color, and have a little blow up.
Number 5 is that once you get one procedure done, you will likely want other ones. So you just gotta be ready to really take that into account, right? That you might be going for your nose. What I did first was my nose, and then you're like, oh, my lips are also pretty small on video. I honestly just started because I was making a lot of content for my business for the very first time, creating content for social media, and then it's like, oh shit, like my nose is crooked, this is that, and so once you see one thing, you probably start seeing other things that you want to change, and that can become addicting. A lot of people say, oh, we're addicted to plastic surgery, which I don't think we are, and addicted people never think they are, right? But I really think we're not, but you can definitely become very aware of your appearance and spend a lot of time in the mirror, and you kind of have to turn off from that mode. I definitely, like when I did my nose, and the recovery is like taking a while, and things are changing every day, and then you start looking in the mirror more often, you can definitely find a lot more things to fix that maybe you didn't even need to fix to start with.
Do you feel like that's something that even now, because you've had a lot of surgeries and I think you look great, do you ever still look in the mirror and still, like, let's say like today, would you look in the mirror and still have things that you'd want to change?
No, because I turned that off. I know that you do that a lot. Because like every day Rachel tells me something she wants to change about her face. And when I was doing my nose, that was definitely something that like, it was like me as well, because I was looking in the mirror more often. But since I got like the teeth done, nose, jaw, now I'm like, I'm not gonna do anything. So I kind of tried to turn that off. And then I'm not thinking, I'm busy with my music and my business. So
Do you feel like you've done everything that you can?
I did what I could, and at this point, like I'm not gonna spend more money or time into something that doesn't really matter. And so I just.
Then you start looking fake, right?
Well, yeah, you look fake, and again, it's a lot of money. We spent too much money on this already, so it's not worth it anymore to me.
Yeah.
And so I just turned that off, and now it's not a thing. And of course, the thought can come up sometimes, right? Like, oh, this is a little weird, but then you just accept it as like, okay, I'm good enough now. Let's just do more important things in my life than look in the mirror, you know?
Yeah, I think it's hard for what we do because we're always filming content, always looking at our faces.
Mm-hmm.
I think I still struggle with that. Like even when I do things that I feel like are enhancing my beauty, I always feel like there's one other step further I can take it. And that's where my fear is, and I need you to like, filler blindness or like too much of like a crazy eye, or you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I think it helps to have you there to be like, you're gonna look like a psychopath.
Well, which is hard because it's about taste as well, right? Because like she loves the turkey noses that are very pointy, and to me,
I just did filler to get like my turkey
to be a little more pointy, and I think that's gross. Like when I see the turkey noses for women, if they're super like pointy,
I love it.
I think it looks really gross. But it's also because
Barbie.
I did surgery to make mine straighter, and my doctor made it more pointy, which sucked. And then I had to like fix it and try to make it straighter, more masculine. So it's also about like personal taste, and that's where it gets tricky because you can't tell someone like, oh, your taste is bad. So like you want it, go for it, but I think it looks bad, you know?
Yeah.
And yours like was very natural, so it doesn't look bad, but it could have very easily looked bad in my opinion.
Yeah.
So it's hard to like help the other person when it's their own taste, you know?
And I think when people even usually talk about like the proportions of like, let's say the eyes and the nose and the lips, it's not even like the shape of them, right? Like the shape of the nose or the shape of the eyes, really it's just like, the diametrics of like the sizing. So I think even for a lot of people, whether your nose is straight or like tilted, or whether your eyes are fox eye or straight or downturned, I think most of beauty, like in the science of it, is mostly just like the proportions of where on your face. I think the shapes of those things.
What drags the most attention, right? Like when you look, well, what is that's catching attention?
Yeah.
It's true.
Number 6 is one that I really, really, really wish that I had known before, is getting specific before and after photos from that specific doctor of somebody who has your specific feature and then changing it to what you want. Because both you and I have dealt with this where, we wanted, so for example, my jaw implants, he had never really done them on women before. And I wanted to see somebody with implants, like very sharp features, but still look very feminine. The only before and afters he had were of men, right? And so why was I shocked when I looked manly when that's all he ever had to show, So I should have gone with somebody who specialized in women, or at least was able to show a before and after. And that's on me, right? I think a lot of doctors will say like, oh yeah, I can do that, I can do that, I can do that.
And you get very hopeful. That's the problem, right? Because when you're in there and you love the idea of looking that way, you can fall into their lies or their sneakiness of selling you very easily. And I think that's how you can tell if it's a good doctor or not. Because a good doctor will not try really selling you. They're just showing you, and they're being very realistic, sometimes very pessimistic. Like, by the way, like with my nose, I went to like 3-4 doctors, and they said, I think you should not do it, and I think it's gonna look the same. You're gonna spend a lot of money in recovery to look almost the same. And I was very stubborn, and I said, I do want it. And no wonder I looked the same and I spent money, and it was like a bad experience.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a tricky thing, right? Because good doctors are not really trying to sell you, but also it is a business, they're making a lot of money. And many times they can't show like before and after photos online. Depending on the country, they're not allowed to legally post those photos. And sometimes like, I think they cannot even show us their other patients. Like it's tricky. It's a tricky line, right, to walk through.
Which is why also number 7 is there is a big difference between more conservative doctors and doctors who will be more extreme with you. So if you're really looking for like the turkey nose, like totally crazy implants and stuff, you just gotta choose a doctor that is gonna be more controversial, right? Somebody who's not afraid of doing more than your average doctor.
A risk taker, right? Because it's a big liability for them to do a surgery. And so the less they change, the safer it is for the doctor. But also you might end up like me, like paying for no job, going through a year of recovery to look the same, if not a bit, like, anyways, mine was pointier than I wanted. I wanted to be straight. And so that's the tricky part, right? If you want like a drastic change, you gotta make sure that you go to a doctor that's used to doing that and that's okay with taking that risk, rather than a doctor that's more conservative.
Yeah, which has its pros and cons, right? I mean, you hear of the people going to Mexico.
Getting botched, right?
Yeah, getting botched. And, like, I know turkey is really trendy. You know why? Because their noses look great. Like, you should have gone to a turkey nose job because the people here were way too conservative.
They were.
You know, and so I think there's negatives and positives to both sides. Just be sure if what you want, if the doctors in your location are being like, no, I'm not going to do that, maybe going out of the country or just finding somebody who is more of an artist than like a traditional, like, you know, the plastic surgeons who really view it as art, they don't mind changing a lot.
Yeah.
It's probably a better fit for you.
Which is the next point. We gotta really have very good expectations, because you're just not, it's not gonna turn out exactly as you want it.
Even with somebody crazy.
Even if it's somebody great, right? Like somebody that's more crazy.
Yeah.
And you do risk getting infections, and you do risk getting botched.
How many infections have you had in your nose?
And so with my nose, first 2 surgeries, so I did it once with a great doctor, the most expensive doctor I could find in a very like fancy city in Brazil. And he was like the most expensive, then everything seemed great. He studied in Florida, where we lived in Orlando. And so he didn't change anything. And then I said, well, I want to fix it. And I found a dentist that was more liberal, right? Like she would do more. And it was like a mini micro surgery in her office, where she like opens it, she numbs you, opens it, shaves down the bone. And she shaved my cartilage that was pointy, that he made more girly. And it looked way better for like 1/3 of the price. It looked 10 times better than the guy who was super expensive in a real hospital with all of the fancy things. But I did get a little infection, so some pus started coming out of that when it was healing. And then I had to go back twice for her to clean it up, open it again, remove it, stitch me up. So I did have to go through that process, which of course I was not expecting. I was not counting for doing surgery twice more after hers, going through the healing process, getting stitched up again, and the fear of getting like bad stitches, right? Like, is my nose gonna start looking botched now because I've opened it so many times? That is a chance, right? So whenever you do any type of surgery, there's always a risk. You just gotta be aware of that.
Yeah, because normally, I mean, I think infection is something that's not super uncommon. You know, they'll give you medication for it and make sure that they're getting rid of the bacteria. So I don't think it's something super uncommon, but it happened for you like 3 different times. I mean, are you still having tests like that, or is it
Not
pretty
for
much
now,
over?
because I just finished my medications, but it might happen in a few weeks. We have to see.
Yeah, and I think that too is just going with a doctor who, even if they are more like open, they do still need to be credentialed. Like
Of
they
course.
need to be like, you know, they can't be in a back room somewhere with like without a license. You know, so just be aware that that can happen. Infection can happen anywhere, any place, anytime. Even with good doctors, it happens.
Oh
So
yeah.
just like be aware. And again, that's why I say with recovery time, that's why it is good to have extra recovery time, taking into account if I get infected, if I know that need another week or two of antibiotics, you're going to need that time.
Now the next thing is that you really gotta prepare mentally for the healing process. And so with a nose job, for example, your nose is gonna be changing daily for about a year. And so every day you look in the mirror and it's like, oh, it's tilted. Oh, one side is bigger than the other. Oh, like there's always gonna be something weird going on. And it can be very freaky, right? Because you're like, shit, did I just screw up my face because I look awful? And that's gonna happen every day. Something is changing and it's looking a little off or a little better and then it gets worse. And so you just gotta really prepare mentally to not look in the mirror for a while, which is really hard because you're excited to see the results. But just gotta kind of turn that off and be like, okay, it's gonna look like shit for a long time. It's gonna be changing daily, but I just gotta understand that in 6 months to a year, I'll get the real result. Now it's just gonna be freaky to look at.
Yeah, I think that's what's helpful about like wearing a bandage. It's not even for like shaping it. It's like just don't look at it, right? Like with my PDO threads, I just had big bandages on because during the healing process they look insane. I was like, I'd rather just not see. Like just keep on the bandages, go out in public with bandages, who cares? Because it helps you like not be looking, analyzing, just keep it like covered up for as long as you can. Number 9 is that in a very similar fashion to adding in more recovery time, expenses will also probably exceed what you're thinking it's going to be. Because when they're giving you the prices for the procedure, it's usually just that, the procedure. They're not taking into account anesthesia, hospital time, antibiotics, time off work that you're not making money. I mean, it can rack up and be really expensive. And so I always say, whatever price they give you, you need to add in maybe like 1/4, 1/3 of the price of the surgery and just add on to that because you have no idea if you're going to need more anesthesia, more antibiotics. Maybe you need more recovery time in the hospital. They make you stay 3 nights instead of 1 night, and that's expensive. And so, whatever amount you think it's going to be, just be way safe. And if they're saying it's going to be $7,000, just say 10 grand just to cover all your bases.
It's true. I'll always consider more. And that takes us to the very last point, number 10, which is permanent versus temporary procedures. I was one that always liked very permanent things. I was like, I'm gonna do it, but I'm only gonna do it once and I'll be set for life. And so I always look for permanent procedures rather than temporary. Temporary, talking usually about fillers like Botox, and permanent surgery where you really go under anesthesia and you do something more drastic. You usually pay more for permanent, but it's only once and you're technically set for your whole life. If it's like a boob job, I think you gotta change it every 10 years, 10 to 20 years, so it's almost permanent. If it's a nose, you just do it once. And so that sounded very sexy to me. So when I thought of my jaw, I had done fillers before to make my jaw sharper and bigger, more masculine. And what I hated is that every 15 to 18 months, you gotta go back and do it again. And I was like, gosh, that's a lot of money to be doing my whole life. And that's annoying as fuck. I just want to do it once and be done. And so I ended up going for the implants, which were like 5 times more than fillers. They were really expensive. But in my mind, I was like, well, I'll do it once and I'm happy and I'm done. The problem was that the implants, even though mine were custom made and I could see the 3D model of my face, my bones and the plastic on top and all that, I couldn't really see the result. And so once I saw the results, like, oh, my chin is a little big, my jaw is not very sharp, it's all bigger, my face is bigger now, but it's not as sharp as I wanted. I look like a bit fatter on the face. That I could not have predicted. And because it's permanent, I can, yes, remove it. But again, it's a lot of money, a lot of recovery time to remove it, to the point that like I don't even know if it's worth it, and I'm postponing that removal because I don't want to spend the money, I don't want to spend the time, I don't want to do all of that. Whereas if I stuck to temporary fillers, I'm seeing them do it. I can tell the person, do more here, do less there, sharper, less, more. You can give a lot more of your opinion.
It's way more precise.
It's more precise, you have more control, but you do have to keep going back. Which in a lifetime, that will get more expensive than doing the expensive one at first, but you have the risk of not loving it. And so it's a tricky line. You gotta be okay with the pros and cons of each.
And you have more control too, right? Because when it comes to surgery, there's recovery time. There's the way that your particular body reacts and how, you know, the implants will go with your muscles and your skin and how your skin stretches. And I think it's so different per person because our skin is different, our density is different. But with something like fillers, you can see immediately. And they add more, they do, you know, whatever, different placement. So you're not having to wait for recovery. You don't have to hope your body accepts it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, filler is just like, okay, I'm right here. How I walk out the door is how I'm going to be looking for the next year at least. And it makes you feel more confident.
In worst case scenario, you can remove it. If you hate it, they can add a little thing there and dissolve the hyaluronic acid. So that also gives you some peace that you can remove it. But that means that you would have wasted a lot of money. So either way, you know, there's no perfect. You just got to be okay with the pros and cons of each.
And I know that we can say all these things, and for somebody out there who's watching for themselves, they're like, yeah, like I get it. But like I'm telling you, there's nothing worse than investing time and money into a surgery that you regret later. So take it from us who have done a lot of surgeries. I know it's so exciting, and you're like, I'm so excited to like get this, but you could look botched or just bad. So if it's possible, and this is coming from plastic surgery addicts, if it's possible to do a temporary fix, at least first, to see if you like it before you do it. And if it is possible to continually do that instead of doing surgery, just try to make plastic surgery your last case scenario.
Yeah, we would recommend that. For my nose, when I did fillers, it looked way better than my nose jobs. My jaw as well looked better with fillers, and so we really like fillers even though they are temporary. That being said though, we actually are visiting Brazil right now, southern Brazil. It's a very nice area. Tons of like all of our neighbors have yachts, and I'm just telling you this because people hear of Brazil and they think it's like a scary place. But if you're like in a rich area, it doesn't matter what country you're in, you're gonna be in a very nice place. And that's where we do most of our procedures. We're visiting family right now. We got our own place here for a little. And we actually help people who want to come here and do surgeries here because they're usually like 1/4 of the price in the US. And whereas in the US, you might, or if you're in Canada, in Europe, you might have to pick the cheapest surgeon. Here we can go with the celebrity surgeons because the currency, right? It's a currency game. 5-to-1. And so here you can really pick the best of the best. And so we've done the work of actually selecting the people that we liked and telling you to not go with the ones that we didn't like so that you have a better experience than we have had. And so you can go to benjor.com/glowupvacay so you can ask for our help, right? And we can help you come and pick the right surgeons. You can also enjoy a vacation here. Brazil is a beautiful place to visit. We live just by the beach, super nice, safe area, and we love it. So yeah, if you are interested in getting that help, we can help you, so just go to the website, check that out. And I also have a club called the Reality Engineers Club, where I help people make more money. When we talk about plastic surgery, it is not cheap. And if you're like working a job you don't love, but you want to make more money, I help people really start or grow their business so they can be full-time doing something they love, like we do right now. And you can just go to benjor.com/club to start a 15-day free trial. Try that out, see if you make more money, if you're more successful hitting your goals, so that you can afford some things that are pretty expensive.
Yeah, and Again, if you have any questions about any of this, anything that we didn't cover, we tried to go over the questions that people ask us on our social media. Leave it in the comments below, because we still are continuing to get procedures and things. So we will be definitely making more videos on the plastic side of things that we do. Just leave your questions below with anything. Check us out on our social media if you have questions there. Mine is at Rachel Rosette. His is at Benjor Music. We'll put the little handles here. And we will see you next time.
Stay crazy.
Bye.
Bye.